Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mindbody Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I am here with my colleague, Dr. Radhika Reddy. Hello, Radhika.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on here. Radhika is a psychologist in California who works mostly with clients struggling with OCD and also with clients struggling with chronic pain. So her knowledge is incredibly useful for us, and that is why she's here today. And Radhika also has her own journey. Her just like me, just like probably everybody listening, with chronic pain and chronic symptoms and chronic conditions. So we've got a lot to talk about. Why don't you start by introducing yourself? Just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do professionally, and if you want to include anything you do personally, that's awesome too.
Yeah. And I'm Radhika Reddy, and I'm based in San Francisco right now. And I got into the TMS work about 5 years ago, exactly 5 years ago, actually, from like the state. And
I love that. Wait, that's actually kind of shocking. I can't help but butt in and say
yes,
something. It was October. I think it was October 3rd was the day that I first got into chronic pain stuff for myself. It was October 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in there. I still remember that too, because it's such a paradigm shift. Like, okay, but yes, go on.
yeah, no, totally. I think for me it was like this spiritual awakening. And
Yes.
I was just looking back yesterday and I was like, okay, July 9th and 10th is when like I consider to be my spiritual awakening because there's such a profound shift. So I was like, wow, like the timing of this podcast, like recording it is very interesting. It's like,
That's honestly kind of shocking. I had no idea, and we just connected at this
yeah,
time to do this at this time. Okay. Okay. That's kind of cool.
yeah. But
Wow.
happy fifth
But yeah, go on.
day to my spiritual awakening.
Yes. Happy birthday.
Yeah. That's when I got into the TMS work, and before that I'd already been helping people with anxiety and OCD. But yeah, I think a lot of the work actually kind of transferred over. I didn't realize before then that, you know, what TMS symptoms were, but once I did, I got to see so many of the connections with stuff I was already doing as a therapist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, well, why don't we that's I'm just like still like, wow, 5 years to the date. That's amazing. Um, Why don't we get into that? Like, let's get into your personal story, whatever you want to share. On this podcast, we like talk about literally anything. Nothing's off the table. So, I mean, certainly whatever you don't want to share, please don't feel pressure to. But whatever you want to share, totally welcome. Why don't we just get into your story wherever you want to start, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I have struggled with some kind of, I guess we'll call it TMS here, but sometimes I might use other kind of words to describe it. But
Right.
some
Yeah.
level of things kind of on the TMS spectrum since I was a kid. I think when I was a kid, it was more like asthma and allergies and eczema. And then at some point as an adult, it's like there was like this explosion of symptoms and uh, really they kind of snowballed. I would say I probably had more than like 25 different kinds of TMS symptoms. There were a lot, and just wanted to share some of them, not even a
Great.
comprehensive list. The one that
Cool.
maybe we can talk about most today is hand pain that I had that was diagnosed as tendonitis, repetitive strain injury. That was maybe the most impairing one. And then also I had pains in a lot of other areas too, like joint pain and plantar fasciitis pain, shoulder pain, ankle, knee pain, hip weakness, fatigue, sensitivity to different things like sounds, lights, touch at one point to touching cold things, chemicals, certain fabrics. I've had a lot of food sensitivities that I had developed, different kinds of foods. So cut out a lot of things like dairy and chickpeas, avocado, raw fruits and vegetables, but no diagnosed food allergies. I've
Mm-hmm.
numbness and tingling sensations, um, hives, eczema. I had phases where I've had like pseudo hypoglycemic kind of symptoms. And I say pseudo because I wasn't actually hypoglycemic, nothing showed up on
Right.
tests, but I would get like lightheaded and jittery and irritable and kind of fearful of being hungry. So it
Right.
was a lot of different kind of things that, and most of these kind of exploded in the span of like a few years.
I'm so glad you're sharing all that because yeah, it's a lot of symptoms. And I'm sure many people listening will hear themselves reflected somewhere in that list. Um, and I mean, I have had a lot of symptoms too, so
Mhm.
I feel you. And it's kinda shocking, to think, like, all of these symptoms come from the same place because they seem so different. So, thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, wherever you wanna take us with your story, the hard parts, the turnaround 5 years ago, the recovery, wherever you wanna take us.
Yeah. So I'll share about my hand pain because that's kind of the one that led me to all this TMS work that I'd been struggling with for years. I think maybe it started in like 2016. I had pain in my wrists, my fingers, my forearms, was diagnosed with tendonitis and repetitive strain injury. I think in some ways, looking back, I was almost like primed to develop this because one, I was hearing a lot about repetitive strain injury from a lot of people. It was felt like it was almost kind of in the air and like a workplace environment. But also I had 2 people I was close to, including a family member who had very similar symptoms. So
Mhm.
I think probably subconsciously I was already really afraid of developing that. I didn't want to have to deal with what they were dealing with.
Absolutely. That reminds me of what Dr. Sarno writes about in his books about the in vogue symptoms, because it's true. Subconsciously, the symptoms transfer like that. It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So makes sense, kinda, like, set the stage for me to develop these symptoms, and, yeah, so when I started the pain developed for me, I was doing yoga. I think that was something that, yoga, there's a lot of, like, pressure that's put on the wrist, so I think something about that was, starting to cause some, like, tightness, and I was, fearful of it. Interestingly, one of the yoga things that I was doing was run by a physical rehabilitation physician, like, who worked
Hmm,
with pain, so that was
hmm,
interesting, and she was also, like, concerned about what I was feeling in my wrist, so
hmm,
I think I just became very fearful of it. I was also typing a lot at my job, which was
mhm,
stressful, and there was also,
mhm,
like, stress and frustration in my personal life at the
mhm.
time. So, yeah, I started noticing the pain, hoping it would.
It
Mhm.
I just wanna say, as you're saying this, I wanna just, like, pause to highlight, a doctor being concerned about
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
Because, like, there's so many elements to that. I mean, on one hand, don't we all want a doctor to, like, for most importantly, have an answer to help us get better? That's the most important thing. But so many people with chronic pain experience, like, the doctor's not really concerned, the doctor doesn't really care, the doctor doesn't really have time for you, and that's its own kind of, fear, pouring fear into the mind body system. But even when a doctor is concerned, that's scary too,
No.
because then it's like, "Oh, geez, there's really something wrong with me, and it's concerning." I mean, it's so easy to just, like, go down the, fear,
Mhm.
symptom, threat, pain, threat cycle. It's so easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when I was assessed for it formally, I was told that it was gonna be chronic. I might live with it forever. So
God.
that definitely led to a lot of pain and a lot of fear
Yep,
for me.
yep,
Um,
yep,
and it really affected my life a lot because it was very limiting because we need to use our hands for, like, everything, I guess, to function. So it hurt to type or hurt to use a mouse. I stopped being able to use my, like, trackpad on my mouse, and I remember thinking, like, things we take for granted, right? Like, I just really wanna, like, sit on my couch again and just use my laptop instead of feeling kind of, like, bound to this desk setup that I have, or everything has to be a specific kind of way, or, the
oh,
pain is just too
man.
intense. So, yeah, it affected me, with my job and home, cooking. There's just so many things, carrying anything that was, like, remotely heavy, even holding my, like, phone, because my phone would feel, like, heavy after a while, so I would, uh, remove my phone case
Mm,
because I felt like, "Okay, that will, like, lighten it, so then it won't, like, hurt as
mhm,
much." So there was definitely a lot of, like, thought going into this on a daily basis. I
mhm,
much cut out a lot of physical activities, definitely cut out the yoga, which was,
mhm,
very, scary for me at the time.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember every morning kinda waking up like, "Okay, how am I gonna, like, get through today? I have to, like, conserve my hand energy," like, "Where am I gonna get,
Yeah.
like, hand energy? I need to, like, do my job, so I'm gonna prioritize that, and then I'll have to figure something out for everything else." So, yeah, that was tough, and then it snowballed into other kind of pains and other kind of issues, and escalated until, like, at some point when the pandemic hit, and there was, like, more stress, obviously,
Right.
eventually took a medical leave from work because it was just that in conjunction with other pains, it was just too much.
Mhm.
Literally at the time, it hurt to hold a fork because it was kind of flared,
Oh, man.
like, the
Yeah.
felt
Wow.
really heavy, yeah, it was
Yeah.
bad at that point.
I'm so glad you're sharing all this. I mean, I'm like, knock on wood, this is a TMS symptom I have not had, is, hand pain, and, you don't realize how much we all take for granted, I mean, I'm just so relating to, what you're saying, but for me, the main symptoms that I've had have been IBS and hip pain, and I'm totally relating to the process of like just
Mhm,
cutting more and more and more stuff
mhm.
out of your life. The idea that you're like, I couldn't hold my phone. I couldn't just be on my laptop. There was a time, I haven't thought about this in a while, but there was a time where my IBS was so bad that I believed that one of the triggers was, like, laying down and then getting up, because there were a few times where that would happen, I would do that, and then my stomach would, like, really hurt a
Mhm.
lot after that, and so, there was maybe, like there were 2 years in there where I was like, "If only I was the kind of person who could, like, just lay down on the couch in the
Yeah,
middle of the day, or lay on the bed for, like, a couple minutes and then get up," but I physically thought I couldn't do that. It's nuts.
yeah,
It is so when people say like, "Oh, I just wanna be free from my chronic pain, I just wanna be back I wanna live my life freely." Sometimes living your life freely is just, like, being able to, like, sit on a couch,
mhm.
being able to have a job, being able to use a computer, like, wow. Okay, I'm just, like, really struck by this, but yes, go on. So you're on medical leave.
Yeah, so I'm on medical leave, having a hard time with just, basic functioning. It kind of felt almost like I was, like, in this, like, dilapidated house and, like, it was, like, kinda crumbling, and I felt like I need to get out of my body before it, like, totally crumbles. So it's kinda like
Yeah,
it felt like rock bottom for me. And, yeah, then I learned, I'd spent that time learning more about, TMS stuff. I was very open to, like, mind body perspectives, but I didn't really know, like, how to really, like, get there, I guess. Like, I understood,
mhm,
like, okay,
mhm,
emotions can play a role, but I didn't really know what to do with, like, that information, I guess. I didn't get, like, the psychological piece, the pain education piece, and I think that was key for me. And,
mhm,
for me, and probably similar for a lot of people's journeys, even, like, prior to this medical leave, I was trying everything I can possibly think of. Like, it's like any suggestion I read about or somebody would tell me about, all the alternative things, all the healing guts and protocols and supplements and energy
mhm,
healers and chiropractic and
mhm,
acupuncture. So I'd already been trying all these things for years,
mhm,
merry-go-round of treatments that sometimes people describe it as. None of that really helped, and neither did, like, the conventional treatments also, like, ice packs and, um, physical therapy, anti-inflammatories. Those things didn't really help either. So,
right.
yeah, so I was trying more and more of, like, mind body kind of work, and I think one thing that made a difference for me at that point was hearing success stories specific to tendinitis. Interestingly, I had actually heard about Dr. Sarno before that. I even read his, like, healing back pain book, but And I thought it was really fascinating, but I didn't really connect
Mhm.
it to my symptoms since I didn't have back pain. I had, like, hand
Right,
pain. So,
right.
yeah, again, I think I just didn't know what to do with that. So once I, like, started hearing and reading success stories specific to hand pain with the same approach, that's when it started clicking, and I was like, "I think this can describe me, I'm very open to it." I reached out
Mhm.
to a clinic that specialized in this, and I just needed to hear confirmation that, like,
Mhm,
there's nothing wrong with your hands. So, I remember my
mhm,
first consultation call, it wasn't even like a session. The therapist, heard a little bit about my symptoms and was like, "Yeah, this sounds, neuroplastic, TMS.
mhm,
I think you'll be fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with your hands." Just hearing that made such a massive difference. And
mm,
that
mm.
day, I would say maybe like 50% of my hand pain went away. Just that same
Oh,
day.
that's amazing. That's amazing. What a relief. Wow.
Yeah. And then I remember I was like taking this long walk afterwards and I was thinking about like, the many mysterious symptoms that I'd kind of like experienced in my life and trying to figure out like, okay, could this be TMS and that be TMS? And I was kind of like mindfully, neutrally noticing the sensations in my hands. And I noticed there was a shift. It would like move to my right shoulder and then would move
Mhm,
to my stomach like pretty quickly. Also, now
mhm,
I know it's, the symptom imperative, but it was almost like whack-a-mole. Like I look at like one part of my body again through like a neutral kind of lens and then it would like move over. And that was really fascinating because it felt like my symptoms were kinda, like, revealing themselves, like, "Okay, like, now I know this is TMS and that's TMS because it's
mhm,
moving so quickly." So that,
mhm,
I felt like was a very profound experience to me to be able to see all that and kind of realize, like, for the first time, like, I don't know if anything's actually wrong with my body, I think I'm fine, was very
mhm.
empowering.
Oh my right, right, wow. And what a huge I mean, the way that you describe needing to hear stories about tendinitis first, I think that's so important to, like, shine a light on that aspect because when people first come to this like for me for example when I first came to this I was mostly focused on even though I had IBS that was still kind of bad at the time I had just sort of resigned myself to like that is it's gotten as good as it's going to get and like this is just the rest of my life but my hip was really the problem at that point and most people when they first come to this they're not thinking like they're not thinking about chronic pain holistically.
Mhm.
They're thinking about their specific symptom. So I'm sure that a lot of people listening relate to this. Like you needed someone to tell you like tendinitis is in this category. Welcome to the fold because that helps you move from thinking like I have tendinitis into thinking like I have TMS, I have
Mhm.
neuroplastic pain, I have
Mhm.
a neural circuit condition, however you wanna put it. It leads you into this world where it's like, "Oh, I see." Not only is my sense of the diagnosis now different, but now my sense of how to treat it is completely different. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It took because I guess it was confusing because it's like on the one hand, I was given this diagnosis. Diagnosis can be scary, a
Right,
chronic diagnosis, and
right.
given explanations of it's because of inflammation. So, yeah, so this was very different because I don't think I ever had inflammation. You know what I mean? So I think it was
Mhm,
a lot of inaccurate information that was given by physicians too. So that kind of stayed in my mind and so to hear, yeah, someone specifically with my symptom kind of sharing their story and for me to know it's possible, like, okay, maybe this doesn't really have to do with inflammation. Maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with like typing. Um,
mhm,
because yeah,
mhm.
there's a lot of like fear of typing kind of in the air, it feels like.
Absolutely, like, typing is gonna mess up your fingers, typing computers are gonna mess up your neck and hunch you over forever. There's so much
Wow.
fear of that, totally. And right, it's so important to differentiate the difference between typing is not a trigger for chronic pain. Fear of typing or the belief that typing will cause pain, that's a trigger for chronic pain.
Yeah, absolutely. That conditioned response. At one
Right.
point, I remember it's so interesting to look back at these things and like how a lot of the mysterious things can be explained through this mind body lens. But I remember I had less pain when I was at work, working at my desk setup there, compared to if I was working at my desk setup at home. And
Hmm.
I wasn't able to figure out why. I was trying so hard to replicate my like office setup,
Mhm.
tried to get like the same exact keyboard, same mouse, like same chair, and I still had more pain. I never really understood. I would measure like the distance between like the keyboard and the monitor, all the things they like tell you to do with ergonomics.
Yep,
And I was like, I
yep.
don't get it. Like everything seems the same. Like, why is it that I have more pain at home? And well, I mean, now I understand it's all conditioned responses, and maybe I was more stressed working, at home than in the
Mhm.
office. So yeah, there definitely was a lot of mystery when I was looking at it, like, purely through, like, a physical lens.
I so relate to that. I am literally, as I'm talking to you, I am sitting in a chair
Mhm.
that costs $1,200, and this is why. Because I started with one, chair in my home office that was causing, quote, unquote, "causing," you
Mhm,
know, that's
mhm.
quotation air quotes, that was causing hip pain. So I was like, "Okay, I need to get a better chair." Get a different chair,
Yeah.
still was causing, quote unquote, causing hip pain. So I was like, let me just go for like the best of the best. So I was like, I do deep research into like what's the best chair that's out there.
Yeah.
And here we go. I'm still sitting on a $1,200 chair. I don't need this chair, but now I have it. So I'm like, well, might as well use it. I totally relate to what you're saying. But okay. So you are you found out about this stuff immediately. You experience like a drop off in symptoms. What happened next?
So, then I started delving into this work deeper, working with someone individually, a lot of rewiring of my, I guess, neural pathways is kind of how I see it with a lot of my symptoms.
Mhm.
Because even the ones that I like recognize were TMS, it took a while to kind of like go through them and learn a different way. And then also it connected me to myself on a way deeper emotional level too. So the one thing that was interesting to me is like being a therapist, I obviously like appreciated emotions and could talk about emotions. And all that, but what was kind of part of, I guess, like, new in my journey was the idea of, like, feeling the emotions was something I had to learn to do, like, feeling it in my body,
Yep.
because I didn't like, I understood that as kinda like an academic concept, but I didn't really, like, embody that at the time. I thought I was feeling
I
my
to
emotions.
1,000%. I totally relate to this. The body and doing body work, it like really keeps you humble because I just so relate to this. You can know it in your head
Yeah.
and think you're doing it, but your body will tell you if you're doing it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was something I had to learn and develop, and, I guess it's something that I'm always gonna be practicing. And
Same.
probably never, yeah, really ends. But I can relate to a lot of my clients with that when they're confused about like, what do you mean? Where do I feel this in my body? You know, like, oh, I feel it in my mind. I can understand that struggle because like I like had to go through that struggle myself of like really like understanding it on like a sensation level.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I was just thinking about with this podcast, most of the people interviewed on the podcast have been, therapists who do this kind of stuff, and so I wanted to say in addition to what we're talking about, almost everyone, well, I honestly, I think maybe it's fair to say everyone will have, like, reasons to believe that they do not have repressed emotions,
Mhm.
or that, everybody will have a reason for that, and this is, like, the classic kind of therapist reason for that,
Mhm.
but I encourage people listening, if, maybe you really relate to this, if so, awesome. If not, I do really encourage you to dig into, like, what is this for you? Because even if you're not in the place you're like, "I thought I had a handle on my emotions," there is some reason why you think you don't have repressed emotions, but
Mhm.
if you're on this journey with us, I will tell you, you probably do have repressed emotions. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we all have repressed emotions. In general, I feel like the longer that I'm a therapist and the more that I learn, the more I realize what I don't know and what I don't understand, and at times I feel like, "What am I doing?" Because, I mean, like you said, it is a very humbling experience because, yeah, I guess sometimes you, like, learn about what you, like, don't understand over time.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's such an important point. Like, human consciousness is limited. Like, there's so much that we don't know. There's so much we don't understand about the body, so much we don't understand about the world, so much we don't understand about our own brains. And I just like you saying like, the more I do this, the more I realize I don't know. I feel like some people might be because I agree with that 1,000%, and I think some people might see that as like, oh, maybe Radhika and Sean are bad therapists or they're stupid. You know what I mean? So I think it takes bravery to say like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, but I think it's to me, it's like the smartest and most awake people are the people who realize like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of mystery out there that I don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. About ourselves, about what we're doing, about our symptoms. Yeah, there really is a lot of mystery. So, absolutely it is humbling and also really fascinating.
1,000%. Yes, yes, because when you realize that you have gaps in knowledge and understanding, then you can start asking questions and getting curious and learning more, you know? So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, anything else you want to say about your recovery? And then yeah, if you want to take us up to today where you're at now. I guess we're focusing on the hand pain. So anything else you want to say about that and then take us up to where you're at with your hand pain today.
Yeah. Well, so with my hand pain, um, so that particular symptom, like a lot of it got better like within days. And then there was, some
Wow.
lingering. I had to eventually encounter all the things that I was fearing.
Yeah.
The last one probably being like yoga because that was kind of like what possibly set it off, at least like emotionally. So it had the most fear with that. But yeah, there was a lot of things I had to like introduce back in. I, got rid of all my I had this like wide collection of like hand braces and hand wraps and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
for various things. I got rid of all that, which was so empowering because I hated wearing
That is.
things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's so fun to think of you just throwing all that shit away. Good for you.
Yeah, literally felt lighter, like, I don't have to carry around all these, like, different things for, like, I guess to accommodate all my, like, symptoms. So then I can just be kind of more in the moment and more free, so that felt really great. Eventually, I added all the foods back in my diet because I had food sensitivities also that, turned out to be TMS. So that was also really liberating because 'cause I'd also cut out things like
Yeah.
gluten,
Yeah.
not even because I was reacting to gluten, but people told me to cut out gluten. So, like,
Right.
ev
Right, so why not? If you're trying everything, might as well cut out gluten too. Why not?
exactly, yeah. So, added, like, everything back in, eventually kind of taught myself to, like, not react to some of the foods I was reacting to, and worked on just a lot of symptoms. So, it did take a while, like, since and there are still a couple of symptoms I'm working on, but, a bulk of symptoms did get better over the course of a few years. Um,
Mhm.
in addition to also doing, like, the emotional work too, of course. So, yeah, I would say I'm chronic pain free. I don't have any chronic pain. I might have, some twinges and things here and there, but my relationship to pain has changed so tremendously that I don't have the same fear-based kind of relationship that I used to. So,
Mhm.
things don't stick around as much. Yeah, and I can use my hands for everything, and I'm proud to report I can sit on a couch now and use my laptop and use my trackpad, and, I try to remind myself of that, like, wow, like, I'm so grateful for being able to do this.
Yeah, no, that's so powerful. That is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And, let me ask as a follow-up with the, like, with both like like the psychological mindset stuff and the emotional like the deeper stuff, um what would you say like surprised you about your healing process?
Well, there was the part that I shared about, like, trying to learn how to feel my feelings,
Mhm.
and then also, I think one thing that was maybe, like, the toughest about having a lot of symptoms was feeling alone.
Yeah.
because I was pretty young and I was surrounded by a lot of people who were young and seemingly healthy. So it felt like I had, like, these, like, invisible illnesses. So I think that
Yeah.
part was really tough, like, maybe possibly the most tough part about it all. Yeah, of just feeling kind of, like, alone and not knowing how to explain it to people, especially because I looked healthy. Um,
Right.
so, yeah, there was definitely a lot of emotional work with that of, like, kinda, like, grieving lots of different things, processing a lot of different emotions just in my journey, like interacting with providers and, a lot of trapped kind of feelings. So I think all of that took, some time and, was, again, still kind of ongoing too. But, yeah, so I think maybe that was, like, one thing that was kinda surprising.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And, if you wanna say any more about, it's funny to hear you and I totally see what you're saying, to hear you say, like, like, if you look back, like, July 9th, July
Mhm,
10th, 5 years ago, this was the beginning
mhm,
of, a spiritual awakening for you.
mhm.
I wonder because so many people talk about this in that way, and I totally get that, but I do feel it's hard to explain.
Mhm.
So I just wanna, like, throw that over to you, like, when you say spiritual journey, like, talk to us about that.
Yeah. It felt a little bit like I was, like, living in this, like, illusion. I remember when my symptoms first started shifting, it almost felt like I was on this, like, movie set, and there's, like, movie playing, and then suddenly they just shout, like, "Cut," and it's like, "Oh, they're not the movie's not, like, real." You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's a little
Right.
like that for me of, wow, this, like, narrative I had in my mind that, like, something is really wrong with my body and, my body's crumbling, like, none of that was actually happening, that was just my perception. So,
Mhm.
I think even that felt a little bit, like, spiritual of, like, wow, there's these, like,
Yeah,
other, like, versions of, like, reality that are happening now, and I can
yeah,
embrace that, like, how do I go from, like, having a hard time holding a fork to later in the day, like, "Oh, I'm starting to use my laptop again, um,
right.
without a mouse." So, yeah, I mean, that felt truly magical, but I also see the pain is it kind of felt almost like a portal to, like, getting in, like, touch with, like, the deeper parts of myself that
Yeah.
I wasn't, like, as connected to in the way that I wanted, and also just to life, I don't know, it felt a little bit like there was this, like, higher, like, force almost that,
Mhm.
like, kind of, like, helping me. So, yeah, I think I was just really there was just a lot to, like, take in.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I totally relate to that. And I'm trying to think, like, for me, like this I mean, I feel like there's been the spiritual side of this has been, like, multifaceted, like, I feel like I get that in a few different levels, in a few different ways, but the thing that stands out to me the most about, like, why I would call this work spiritual for me as well, is that, like, there's something about, like, the tuning into the true self
Mhm,
that, like, is in the body, like I had been sold just like, I wanna be this way, I wanna be that way, I wanna sort of control and shape myself and my life into, like, how I want it to be, and, to learn, like, no. Like, your body actually has a self
mhm,
that is totally beyond your control. Like, you can't do anything about it, you can't change it, and certainly, all of us have the power to, like, create ourselves and make choices, like, all of us have some power to have influence, but, like, the amount of control that I have over who I am and kind of, like, what the world is, like, a little bit, like, laughable to me when I really, like, step back and look at it, and to me, there's been something very spiritual about that, realizing, like, I'm not the one in control.
mhm,
I'm not even really that in control of myself. Like,
mhm,
I don't know what's going on, but there are forces far beyond me and beyond what I can understand that, like, shape me and that are me, and, like, I just kinda have to roll with that.
mhm.
I mean, that's one thing that I feel like I've discovered through this, and it's been sh that's been speaking of what's surprising, that was honestly surprising to me. But I don't know, I mean, everybody has different experiences, like, I don't know if how does that land with you? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one thing that is a huge part of my journey and still is like the letting go and like trusting, like trusting my body, like trusting myself, not having to try so hard because I feel like I tried so hard to like kind of break free from the pain that in some ways maybe it also kind of like backfired because it kept me like really preoccupied. And then interestingly, actually, even after learning about TMS stuff, then I've definitely had phases where it was like overly intense about healing, you know? Um,
Same. That's like my life. Yeah. No, same.
yeah. So I definitely like learned to let go of some of that too, of like, yes, I can like, work towards that, put in time, but I don't have to be spending all my energy on that because I also have to live my life and, not just focus on like healing all the time.
Right. Yeah. No, no, totally. Totally. Okay. Well, let's transition to talking a little bit about, because like, of course you do this professionally. Just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, you were a psychologist already
Yeah.
before your own recovery? Okay. Yeah, same. I mean, I was a clinical social worker,
Mhm.
same before I had my recovery. So, yeah, same boat. Um yeah, talk about that. Integrating this into the work that you do professionally with your clients. Like, yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to also specialize in OCD because I notice some clients come to me because they've heard about TMS and they're already open to the idea. And then we, just kind of dive into the work. And then some clients don't come to me for this. They come to me for OCD, like kind of unrelated.
I don't know. I just think it's funny. So like OCD and chronic pain. I'm like, you're specializing in me. Like I'm your target demographic.
Yeah.
But anyway, go on.
Which is also what I see with my clients who come to me for OCD. They happen to have like a chronic pain more often than not. So that's really fascinating to me. We don't always end up focusing on it because sometimes people are not like ready to do like the TMS work or they don't really
Right.
see it as like related to emotions or psychology. So we might focus more on the OCD, but I kind of see like it's just kinda like different doors to kind of, like, enter through, but maybe kinda gets to the same place eventually. Yeah, but with the TMS work that I do with people, so I like to use a lot of pain reprocessing therapy. So, do you want me to, like, share what I usually do with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Sure.
Yeah. So
That's helpful, I think, especially for people, like, people listening to the podcast. Yeah, they want advice. So yeah, let's hear it.
yeah. So Yeah, so pain reprocessing therapy is, sort of my go-to to start with. So just, giving pain education, understanding the pain fear cycles, and then, I mean, even that can be, like, massively helpful. Again, just like it was for me, just to, like, learn
Yeah.
there might actually be nothing wrong with your body. So, that can give a lot of hope, and then we might talk about safety reappraisal statements, like things that people can tell themselves to feel safe, because a lot of times when we're in pain, we tend to tell ourselves catastrophizing kind of things. Like, "This is gonna ruin my day. I'm not gonna be able to get through it," or, "It's gonna ruin my life." "I feel very trapped." So, statements that can actually help them to feel safer, trust in their body. We also work a lot on, like, kind of increasing belief in that mind-body connection as we're doing this. We might make evidence list, kind of list out, like, "Okay, here's all the evidence so far that this is TMS, and this is not, like, a structural issue." So, I usually find that very helpful. And then we spent a lot of time just kinda, like, creating safety in the body with PRT techniques, but even other kind of things, just I guess it depends on where the client is. Some people really benefit a lot from just learning to be in their bodies and using grounding techniques. Some people are ready to jump into more, somatic tracking kind of approaches. So we might start doing that with maybe just kind of noticing pleasant or neutral sensations in the body, being able to be with it mindfully without judging it, without trying to control it or do anything about it. So it's usually easier to start that with something that feels more pleasant. And once that seems doable, then we might kind of graduate into leaning into the more uncomfortable sensations in the body, which, can be more challenging. And I think that's where it's really helpful to do that with a provider. Because a lot of my clients sometimes try this on their own first, maybe even
Mhm.
before meeting me. And, it's not always a helpful experience because they might just be like hyper focusing on their pain symptoms. So, yeah, we want to do it.
Yeah, but wait, let me just butt in and so, like, let's drill down on that because, somatic tracking is huge in this field, and I'm like, I don't believe we're on episode I think this is 12, 13 we're on, like, the 15th episode, something like that. I have not even talked about somatic tracking, I think, once. So, this is making me think, like, yeah, for people listening, I mean, I'm sure many people have heard of it, are familiar with it, but why don't you just give us a little primer on, like, what exactly that is and how you recommend people do that?
Yeah. So somatic tracking is about being able to be in the body with a particular kind of sensation, and being able to be with it in like a neutral way. So you can see the sensations through a lens of safety rather than through a lens of danger. So if we're doing somatic tracking with the pain symptoms, if we're ready for that step, we would kind of identify what is the sensation in the body, like how would you describe the pain without using the word pain? Like, is it like a tightness? Is it like a pressure? Is there a burning feeling or a tingling feeling? And so we were trying to describe it neutrally and just kind of like give it some space and attend to it mindfully. So mindfully meaning like, again, non-judgmentally, not like resisting it or controlling it, maybe bringing some like lightheartedness to it. So again, we can try to see it, not in a threatening kind of way, but in a safe kind of way. And sometimes as we do that, we might use some safety reappraisal statements. We might give a lot of messages of, let's just say we're doing this with hand pain. So it might be like, your brain is sending these signals here right now. Like this isn't really about your hand. This is like signals that your brain is generating right now, maybe to try to protect you. So just reminders like that that kind of again help to feel safer with the sensation.
Mhm,
Um, we might also sometimes take little breaks and gravitate more towards like soothing sensations in the body, hang out there, just to feel safe in the body, and then come back to the more uncomfortable sensation. So
mhm,
that way we can bring some of that like kind of soothing energy to it, and again, not like
mhm,
hyper fixate on the discomfort. So I find that to be really helpful. We might do that a number of times in different kind of ways and try to make it fun. Sometimes
mhm.
might bring in like a magic school bus analogy. Have you seen that show, Magic School Bus?
Of course, of course.
So, we might imagine, like, "Okay, let's, like, imagine the magic school bus is here. We're gonna, get on the bus. Feel free to bring with you whoever you want, like, family, friends. We're gonna, like, shrink the bus, and we're gonna go into your bus."
That's the most iconic thing. Like, I remember that from, like, elementary school watching that.
Yeah.
Unforgettable.
Yeah, same. So we might then move to, the part of the body wherever the sensation is and get off the bus and explore it and have fun. So we'll be bringing in different analogies for the sensation, again, just to create that safety with it. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
and yeah, so I think a lot of analogies
I
are really helpful. Mhm.
I love that, I love that. I mean, and, yeah, to loop in stuff that we have talked about on this podcast, this I mean, somatic tracking, if for people who if you have not really tried that before, it is the exact opposite of how you probably usually feel about your symptoms. Usually when you feel your pain, you're freaking out about it, you're unhappy about it, you're trying to fix it, you're trying to, get a handle on it, you're trying to make it go away. Um, and what we're doing here is like I mean this is what I refer to on this podcast as the psychological work. This is like getting the correct information about pain, really internalizing it, really believing it, and then teaching your brain and your nervous system that it's safe to feel physical sensations. Like, and I truly, I mean, I know that we're talking about this. I'm like, I should do an episode on somatic tracking someday. Maybe I will, because it just flips your automatic response to like freak out about the pain,
Mhm.
try to fix the pain, hate the pain, want it to go away. It just flips it on its head, and that's what healing looks like.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And the challenge with somatic tracking, is trying to get the outcome independence. So
Yeah, yeah. Talk to us about that. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, it's a great technique, but it's not a technique that's meant to reduce the fear in that moment, and I think that's where sometimes it can be misused. So sometimes people will try and they'll be like, "It didn't work. I was still in pain," but
Mhm,
it's actually not meant to reduce the pain of the moment. That might happen, and if that does, like, great, we have more evidence that it's TMS. It's possible the pain might even intensify or it might stay exactly the same. It's,
mhm,
kind of done with the intention of over time, it'll reduce pain. So not in that moment, but over time, if you keep practicing it, you're changing your relationship to the symptom so that it's less fear-based. And so that's what we call the outcome independence. We don't have, like, an outcome we're looking for in that moment,
mhm,
um, more like over time. So I think that's like maybe the most challenging part of that
mhm,
for
mhm.
my clients.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, right, because, like, don't we all just want it to work
Yeah.
right away, you know? Don't we all want that? And unfortunately, this process is not that. I mean, it's funny because, sometimes it is, you know, to hear about when you very first had that first realization and the first conversation with a professional who told you, like, "Yeah, your hand is fine."
Yeah.
Like, how much relief. Yeah, and, you know, it's so clear that, um that must have calmed your nervous system down a lot and helped you
Mhm.
feel really safe. And so, because pain is a danger signal, when you feel less danger, you're in less pain. So that's beautiful. And of course, not everybody has that experience. Like, not every time you try somatic. I'm just speaking, you know, for people listening who are like, I've been doing this or I want to try this. Yeah, great. Please do. And yeah, I mean, listen to this. Like, know that like every time you try it, you might not get the result you're looking for. Just to clarify, I mean, I assume you're saying like over time one can expect to
Of
see
course.
results, but you do have to go into it each time with outcome independence. Is
Mhm.
that what that's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
that's a struggle, if it's really hard to kinda let go, we might also do somatic tracking on the emotions too, like, that sense of pressure or that sense of anxiety that I needed to go away right now, so that
Mhm.
and also practice attending to that in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, yeah, so, okay, this is really helpful, this kind of, like, advice 'cause this is what a lot of people come to the podcast for, you know, tips and help and, you know, support. Um, what other things, would you like to share with us in terms of, like, tips that you use for yourself, tips that you share with clients? Well, yeah, what other things would you like to share?
Yeah. Well, I also like to do a lot of emotional work with clients too. Maybe after we do more pain reprocessing therapy kind of stuff. So for example, there's therapy called emotional awareness and expression therapy. So
Mhm,
getting in touch with different kind of emotions, especially like in interpersonal contexts. So I find that helpful because of what we're talking about, all of our tendencies to repress feelings. Um,
yeah,
an example of an exercise that I find really helpful is to write an unsent letter.
mm,
So, writing a letter to someone, being as raw and real as you can with your
mhm,
emotions in the letter, really letting it all out, and then really importantly, ripping up the letter, getting rid of it, not actually sending it so that you're not like filtering your emotions in any kind of way, no like censoring happening.
mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For anyone who knows Nicole Sax's journal speak interventions, this is that, you know, just letting emotional awareness and expression. Like this is that.
mm,
But yeah, 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 yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. Um, I'm wondering of for you, like I find that sometimes for some people it's really hard to rip up what if they're journal speaking or they're writing a letter, there's kind of like a strong urge to hold onto it. I don't know, is that something that you
Mm. That's a good question. Uh, I would I would say for me, with the clients I work with, uh, the struggle is usually more about, the fear of emotion. Like getting people to go there without caveats, getting people to write the letter in the first place,
Yeah.
getting people to like make journaling a regular enough practice for them in the first place. Um, People have a lot of resistance to that, and I get that.
Mhm.
Because, well, okay, and let me share from me. I'm the kind of person who, like, you tell me to journal every day, I journal every day. Like, I will follow the rules. I will do it. That said, I still have resistance. It just shows up in a different kind of
Mhm.
way. My resistance is more like, I'll journal about the same thing over and over again. I will physically fall asleep while I'm journaling. That's something that has happened to me many times. Um, because, if you have TMS, being afraid of emotions is just part of it, or having just like fear come up around your emotions is just part of it. So
Mhm.
there's so many different ways to be resistant. I would say for my clients, it's mostly that I'm helping people work through. Um, I don't. Have you had that experience where people are like, I refuse to throw away the letter or rip up the letter?
I've seen that, and so I try really hard to emphasize that in the beginning, like, let's, like, try not to have the option to hold on to it,
Yeah.
because I have had people who kept it and then somebody's, like, found it, and that's led to
Oh no, really?
yeah, um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think, like, let's
Let me just say to people listening, for your own protection, your emotions, you need to feel safe with them. Not everybody needs to know because they won't
mhm,
understand. Like, they won't understand that this is just a part of you. This is not the full truth. It is part of the truth. So we have to acknowledge it and we can't be afraid of it. But like, throw the damn thing away. Don't let this be you.
yeah, and also, I don't think it's, like, the most helpful for everyone to reread what they wrote also, so also for that reason, I think it's
Mhm.
important to just kind of plan to throw it away, not, like, wait to see, like, what comes out. Yeah, so you don't have to decide about that later. But also to your point, yeah, I've noticed also sometimes it's a struggle to start the process. One thing that I've found to be helpful with that is like having my clients start off the process in our session. Like, okay, I'm gonna give you like 10 minutes
Yeah.
to journal, break the ice, and then we'll
Mm,
talk about how it went for you.
mm,
Because I think it has been really hard for them to, like, start on their own, like, very understandably, but just to
mm.
kind of get a little bit of an experience of what that's like together.
That's a nice idea that I have never tried. I like that. I'm, like, putting that in the filing cabinet in my brain. I like that. I like that. And yeah, I mean, I was as we're talking about, like, the more emotional side of the work, before we round out today, like, other advice you have for people, or things that you do that you think would be helpful for people to know, when it comes to the emotional side of the work?
Yeah. I noticed that a lot of people feel a lot of pressure on this journey, like, even after,
Yes.
learning about TMS, and there's kind of an expectation that they're gonna be progressing in a certain kind of way, in a very linear kind of way. So one
Right.
thing I like to remind all my clients and myself too, is that healing is a nonlinear journey. And I like to show like an infographic because I'm a visual person, but just to kind of see like there's going to be ups and downs. That doesn't mean that, you got worse. It doesn't mean you're not going to get there, but it means that's just how your journey is. It's a little bit like shoots and ladders. So if you're feeling a low, you're feeling like your symptoms have intensified, um, that's okay. Like, please, don't lose hope. That's just where you are right now. And if you can, mold yourself with kindness and gentleness and just kind of take it one day at a time, like, you will continue to progress.
I love that. I love that. And that's so helpful for people to hear. I mean, I think people can, like, plateau on this
Right,
or give up on this
right.
or, I mean, something that really saddens me is just knowing that Like I know this from going to Nicole Sax's Omega retreat that she does every year in upstate New York, that people will go to the retreat, get a little better. You know, they're not like, oh, I am fully chronic pain free, but people get better, people start seeing results, and then something new happens. Maybe their same old symptoms, you know,
Mhm.
spike up again. Maybe a new symptom comes up and they don't really, you know, they're just not in the TMS chronic pain mindset around the new symptom, and suddenly they're back to the doctors, or they're like, that didn't really work for me. And the thing that really kills me about that is like, it could have like it was working, and it could have continued
Yeah.
to work, and you could have continued to get better. um Sticking with it, I think, is really important.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's a long process. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, like, making space for whatever emotions, like, come up at that point. Maybe there's, like,
Yes.
frustration or, whatever it is, like, that's okay. It's a very normal part of the process. I know we like to think of healing as, like, all, like, rainbows and sunshine, but
Right.
that's definitely not been my experience and a lot of other people's
Nope.
experiences. So,
Maybe.
yeah. So having frustration's okay. It's part of the process and, taking care of yourself with the frustration. Um Not fearing the emotions that come up about it, because I see sometimes people start to fear emotions, like, is that gonna, like, somehow contribute to a symptom? And it's not quite straightforward like that.
Mhm. Absolutely. Right, and I I just wanna, like, throw in with the, healing is not all, like, rainbows and butterflies. Uh, yes, and one of the reasons why that's particularly true with this work is because, when you've learned that your emotions aren't safe, or when you've learned that, like, it's a better idea, it's just easier to keep your emotions in and repress them, and not let them out. What you will find when you start really digging, what you'll find is, like, there are emotional truths in there that you don't like. Like, you have repressed them for a reason. And when you get like, this has been the experience for me, and I know it's been the experience for many of my clients who I do this kind of work with. When you get to that when you get to some of these emotions, it's hard, you know? There can even be a tendency to be like, let's just go back to the pain." Like, that would be better to deal with than, like, really acknowledge the gravity of this.
Mhm.
Um, but my plea and my, invitation to everyone is to, is to keep going, you know? Keep going.
Mhm.
But okay, as we're rounding out, any words, like, final words of, like, hope or inspiration that you have to share with people, especially as somebody who's really doing well after being very ill with so many symptoms, like, couldn't work, couldn't sit on the couch and use your phone. I mean, any words of, any final words of, like, hope or inspiration that you wanna share with people?
Um, well, maybe just that everyone's journey is gonna be different, and even for me, I've had different journeys with, like, my symptoms too. So some things did improve really rapidly, and then some things took longer. So it's kind of, either way is can be okay, can be safe. So, if you're someone who didn't have, like a textbook cure, sometimes they call it, you read about
Yeah.
it and then it's all better. That's okay too. Sometimes it takes time and patience and just trusting that, if this is TMS, that you'll get there eventually, surrounding yourself with support, working with a practitioner if you can, or doing it in some kind of community supportive kind of space, because I know it can feel really isolating, can feel like you're all alone in this, but just knowing there's a lot of people in this journey with you, as you're just kind of taking it day by day.
Awesome. Yes, awesome, awesome. Yes, I'm also just thinking, I know just, hearing your story will be really inspiring for people, just to know that, you know, things can be bad, and then you really can make your way out of it. I mean, it's really powerful. It's really powerful. So, okay, last thing, where can people find you? Like, say people want to reach out to you, they wanna work with you, um, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I will provide my website, which I'm still fixing up, so I can't give that
Awesome. Great, so we'll get a fresh new website. Awesome.
Yes, but people can check me out on my website. I would like to work with people individually and also maybe in like a group workshop kind of format. I've done that before, and I think
Cool.
that has some unique benefits. Also, again, in the spirit of not feeling alone, and
Yeah.
also it gives just a different kind of option if people are preferring that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you have a, Psychology Today profile, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So we will put some links below in the show notes so people can find you. And, and then the website, if you're listening and the website link is not there yet, that means the website's just not ready yet. We will retroactively put the website link down there as soon as it's ready, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome, cool. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's super inspiring to hear your story, and I know people listening will get a lot out of this. So thank you so much for coming on, and for everybody listening, I will talk to you next week. I'll see you then.